Okay, perfect. We're live. All right, so this is it. This is Division 4, Season 4, Round 3. Today we arrive at Portugal, and I'm new here. Obviously, I wasn't here in qualifying because we had some technical difficulties, but I'm here now for the important part of today. It's the race, and I missed out on qualifying, so would you be able to walk me through it, please?
So yeah, there was an exciting battle on the pole position today with Kate Pollitt and Sonko Slayer, but in the end it was Kate Pollitt who takes the pole position from Sonko Slayer, who invalidated his last lap. And yeah, pretty else it was really close with the all drivers today. It's exciting to see how the race goes with all these amazing drivers.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited too. This is my second time commentating in URL, and hopefully my first time commentating in Div 4 as full time. So can't wait to see these drivers get underway for the race, and I hope it's an exciting one. But we're going to have a quick look at the tyres just to see what the drivers will be going for strategy-wise, because around this track I think it is going to be a two-stop from soft, medium, or I might be wrong there. It actually could be a soft, medium race. I haven't raced at Portugal for a long time now, but yeah, I think it is actually a soft, medium race. So we're going to have to see. As you can see in the back, the 11th, 12th, and 13th and 14th are all starting on the medium, so they'll have an advantage strategy-wise. So that will definitely be interesting to see and something to watch out for. But the drivers have now all lined up onto the grid, and we're getting ready to get underway. So we have Gaten Bollet in the Red Bull leading us away, and we're getting ready to start. Now we have 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. They're gone, and we are away. And off the start, what does it look like? It looks like the Red Bull gets a very good start off the start, covers off the Mercedes coming into turn 1. A bit of side-by-side action for P3. It's URL Chris coming up into P3 now, and a bit of battling in the midfield. The 2 Alfa Romeos switching positions, going side by side as well, and it looks like Gaten has actually gotten a good start off of the start. He's maintained P1. As you can see, a little bit of chaos going on in the background. It looks like Brake's actually going for a move down the inside of Lars into turn 5 now, and that's a little bit of action for the battle of P4, and it looks like Brake has actually gotten that position. So Brake goes into P4 at the start of this race, and Lars is down into P5 from P3 if I'm not mistaken. So not the best start from him, and not the best start from H. Taylor either, who drops down into P12. And at the start of the lap, it seems like some of the drivers are already starting to settle in, and yeah, a great start for Gaten there. What did you think of that start? I know lap 1 isn't actually over yet, but it looks like the drivers have started to calm down and the first lap moves are over. So Gaten, pretty good off the line. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I was saying the same that Kate Pollitt was amazing on the start, and I was really hoping the battle between Sonko Slayer and Kate Pollitt on the first lap, and it seems like Kate Pollitt was this time faster than Sonko Slayer. But yeah, let's see how the race goes.
Yeah, and it actually looks like H. Taylor has pulled into the pit lane, so it must have been wing damage for him. So that is a shame to see. He's going to have to go onto the mediums, and it looks like it's going to be a two-stop for him. And that's definitely a shame to see. But moving on with the rest of the grid, it looks like Lars has actually lost DRS to, I'm going to call him Brake, because I don't know how to pronounce that name. He's actually lost DRS to Brake, even though it hasn't been enabled yet. When it is enabled on lap 3, he's not going to have that DRS. So the top 4 are starting to pull away from the back half of the grid. Well, more than the back half, the rest of the grid, from P5 all the way down to P13. So it looks like the top 4 actually have some strong pace coming into lap 3, sorry, and they could be battling in a league of their own in this race. So as you can see, the gaps are not are quite big actually. The drivers aren't looking to make a lot of overtakes in this race, as it actually looks like Lars made a dummy to the pit lane there, which is interesting to see on lap 3, as DRS is now enabled, and the Haas car of Charles is getting quite close to Rez in that Alfa Romeo, and this battle for P5 between Lars, Rez, Charles and Spooder looks Spooder Elephant, which is an interesting name. Looks like is the main battle on track right now. So it looks like Charles is having a look down the inside into turn 5. Can he make the move stick? The answer is yes or no, he can't. He makes a bit of contact with Rez ahead, but manages to keep it on track, and Rez is going to defend that position and maintain P6 in this race. But Charles is getting quite feisty now. He wants to get ahead, but he's going to have to wait for an opportunity, because there is not a lot of overtaking opportunities in the third sector, so he might have to wait for the next DRS straight to actually make the move. And looking further back of the grid, it looks like Brady in the McLaren is the only person who's hung on to the DRS on those medium compound tires. So you can see the difference between the softs and the mediums. The softs obviously a lot faster around this track, and it looks like Brady's actually put himself in a great position to hang on with these soft compound tire runners and put himself in the battle
and
for
now
some
actually,
points.
Lars Molina is gonna go for battle on the C1.
Oh yeah, it looks like he is, and he actually makes it down the inside of Lars into turn 1. He has now taken P5, and he's going to try and pull the rest of the guys into the DRS of his teammate ahead, and we'll have to see if he can do that. But Lars is not going to go down without a fight. He's right behind, just 2 tenths behind. He has a DRS, and as you can see, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th are getting very close together, nearly hitting each other's gearboxes, and a lot of battling going on in the midfield. But as you can see, the top 4 have started to pull away. The gap is now 2 seconds, and is this a thing we should expect to see? Obviously, I want to know a lot about the drivers in this league, as it's my first time commentating. Are the top 4 usually this pacey, or do you think the bottom half of the grid just got a bad start?
Yeah, exciting to see how the Spooder Fund is gonna perform this race, as he was the last season champion. But yeah, I think it's gonna be good race with the top 4, as they're really close to each other, and the rest of the pack is also really close, as we see now Lars Linden battling with Chalindo going to J1. Oh, there's been also...
Oh yeah, it actually looks like Charles has spun there into turn 1. We were watching that. He tried to go down the inside of Lars, and sadly it did not work out, and he spun at turn 1, and that is going to lose him a lot of time and track position. So that is definitely a shame to see. He's dropped down to P12 there. I wasn't fully sure what happened there. I think Lars just didn't leave him enough space, or Charles could have possibly gone a bit deep into turn 1. I wasn't completely focused there. But
I think Charlie just touched the inside curb too much, and that made him spin.
Yeah, that's a shame to see as he spins again, coming into that uphill right-hander. So the 2 Haas cars not having a good race so far. It's H. Taylor has had to box on lap 1, and Charles has spun, going for a move into turn 1. So the Haas is not looking too good in this race, but as we move back up to the higher place in the field, it looks like Lars is beginning to lose a bit of touch to Rez ahead, as the gap is now 9 tenths, but he's gaining it all back with that DRS. With the power of the DRS, he's gained about 4 tenths on that straight, so you can see how powerful the DRS is and how hard it is to break away from that DRS gap. So Rez right now is somewhat maintaining a 2-second gap to the guys ahead, but it looks like their pace is really good at this stage in the race, and they're able to maintain that gap to Rez behind and keep pulling away and battle for the podium in this race, as Brake is the only one in that little group that isn't on the podium right now, but he'll definitely be looking to get onto that podium. And Jonko Slater is definitely going to be looking to overtake Gayton as well. But right now, those four are just working together with the power of the DRS to pull away. They haven't been making too many moves at the start of this race. Coming on lap 6, there's no moves that have been made in the top 4, apart from the fact that URL, Chris, and Brake have both moved up into that top 4 group. So right now, we're just watching the battle for P5 in this race, and it looks like, yeah, Lars is definitely struggling for pace in this race, as it actually looks like Spooder Elephant is going to go for a move on Lars on this DRS, on this pit straight, and it looks like he's going to get the move done. Lars tries to duck into the slipstream and possibly fight back, but Spooder Elephant has made the move coming into turn 1, so he is going to move up into P6, and he's going to be right behind Rez. So Lars is really struggling for pace in this race, as he's fallen all the way from P3 to P7 in just 7 laps. So that is,
yeah, he has to be some damage for sure.
Yeah, it must
Otherwise
be.
Otherwise he is pretty good on the races, but now I think he just have some wind damage. But doesn't want to pitch, as he will lose pretty much places by pitting and chasing the front wing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there.
I think that Katie Pollitt and Jonko Slater, they had on the last lap they was really close to each other. I think Jonko Slater is ready for overtake in a couple of laps, so that is interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, like you said, you think Lars might actually have some wing damage. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. I'm going to look closely to his front wing next time we go on board with him. But it looks like Jonko was looking for a move there into turn 1, but he was not close enough to make that move work into turn 1. So he's going to back off for now. But like you said, he's going to be looking for a move soon enough. He wants to lead this Grand Prix. He's going to have the DRS here. He's just 3/10 behind. Is he going to be going for a move into turn 5? No, he is not. Once again, he has the look down the inside, but thinks better of it. So just biding his time for now and waiting for the opportunity to arise to actually overtake Gayton for the lead of the race, as I assume Gayton is probably using a good bit of his ERS to maintain that lead, because Jonko has the power of the DRS. But we're going to look at Lars now. I'm going to have an extra close look at his front wing to see if he has any damage, but from what I'm seeing, it does not look like he has any visible damage, so maybe he's just struggling for pace at Portugal. I don't know if I'm seeing that wrong, but no, I don't think he has any damage on his left or right end plate, so might be struggling for pace in this race. Can I ask, is he usually up there and on the podium in these races in Division 4?
Yeah, usually he's really close, at least for podiums. But as we see, Jonko went for move now.
Oh yeah, it actually looks like Jonko's going for the move into P1 now, and Gayton is going to try and fight back, but it does not look like he's going to be able to fight back, possibly with the power of the DRS on this next straight. Let's see if he's going to go for the move. Looks like he wants to maintain the lead. He goes to the inside into turn 5, down the inside. Can he make the move stick is the question, and looks like the answer is yes, but no, it looks like Jonko has gotten quite good traction around the outside into there. He has the inside line for there, but he just had to back out of that one because he did not want to touch the sausage curb on the inside there. So Gayton retakes the lead of the Grand Prix, but it looks like those two are going to be battling it out for the lead of the Grand Prix. But yeah, it looks like Lars is really struggling for pace in this race. He's now lost DRS to Spooder Elephant ahead, so maybe Portugal isn't his best track, or he could be struggling with tyre temps, as that is an issue at this track. But we're going to be looking at the top 4 now, as Jonko made a move into turn 1 on the very last lap on Gayton ahead, and he made it stick, but Gayton overtook him in the next DRS zone. So it looks like Jonko wants the lead of this race, and he's going to make another move into turn 1. He goes down the inside, and he's going to make the move stick, so he's up into P1 once again, but it's the same thing going to happen, where Gayton is going to overtake him into turn 5 with the power of the DRS. We'll have to see. Maybe Jonko is going to use a little more of his ERS, and it looks like Gayton isn't catching him by as much, and Yonko is going to maintain the lead in this race. So Yonko now has the lead of the Grand Prix, and that is great to see, as he's going to be pushing quite hard now with the ERS to maintain that lead until the pit stops come around, and he has to box for those medium compound of tyres. So coming to you, what do you think about these leaders battling it away? It looks like URL, Chris, and Brake are actually biding their time and just waiting. Maybe a little later on in the race, they've been saving up ERS possibly to try and make a move on these guys later on in the race. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's really good chance for Chris and Brake on the later overtake for these two. But I think Soxy and Gator Bullet is really fast drivers around every track, so it's really hard for Chris and Brake. But it seems like now they are keeping off with these two guys, and yeah, nothing is possible, and I think they will have really good chance for overtake on some part of this race.
Yeah, they've been hanging on in the DRS this entire race, so they've been keeping up with these two guys, so they clearly have the pace, but maybe struggling to actually catch up to them and overtake them, as you can see, as URL Chris is now 9.5 tenths behind Gain, so he is definitely struggling to keep up, but he is keeping up and staying within that DRS, as Gaten and Yonko are pushing away and battling it out for the lead of the race. But right now I want to actually go back to Brady, who is in P8 in that McLaren on those medium tyres. So he's in a really good position in this race, because he's going to be on softs towards the end of the race, and it should be a lot easier for him to make moves at the end of the race and possibly improve his position by a lot, as he started P11, which some people might call strategic pole position. But he is the lead medium runner, and could be looking quite good in this race, as it looks like Gayton and URL Chris have actually now come into the pit lane for a fresh set of medium compound of tyres. So that's actually quite an early lap to box. Usually you want to box around lap 14, maybe lap 15 if you're going to stretch the soft tyres, but they've decided to go for a massive undercut on lap 12, and we're going to have to see how Yonko and Brake actually respond to that, and if they're going to box or if they're going to stretch out their tyres, because obviously Gayton wants that track position, and he's most likely going to get it if he can get a good lap on his out lap. So there you go, a bit of diversity in the strategy in this race on lap 12. Gayton and URL Chris going for that a massive undercut in my opinion, and do you think it's going to work out for them?
Yeah, I think Soxy has to respond that if he wants to remain the lead of this race, so otherwise he will be a little bit further back, but in the end he will have fresher tire than Kate and Bullet. But I think they should have boxed a little bit later to get those mediums last a little bit better, but anyways, it seems like it's gonna last to the end of race anyways for Kate and Bullet, but we will see as Jose continues on track at the moment.
Yeah, I definitely think these mediums are going to be going to the very end of the race, so they're going to have to do 20 laps on these mediums. But it actually looks like Yonko has decided to stay out on those soft compound tyres, so he's not going to respond to Gayton behind in that Red Bull, actually going for the undercut. So Yonkin is going to stick to his pit window and most likely box on lap 14 or 15, so that he doesn't struggle for tyre wear at the end of the race. So even though Gayton is most likely going to have the track position, Yonko is going to have the advantage of fresher tyres, which is definitely a massive help, especially around this track where the tyre wear is so high, and even though it is a soft medium race, the tyre wear is definitely very high around this track. So Yonko will definitely have more pace than Gayton once he does come in for those mediums. But Gayton is trying to build a gap now. He's going to be pushing nice and hard to build that gap, so that once Yonko boxes, he will have hopefully a 3-second gap, and Janko's going to have to push hard to actually catch up to that. But once again, Janko has decided not to box, but looks like the man behind the brake has actually decided to box on lap 13 for a fresh set of medium compound tires. So he hasn't responded as quickly as Janko, but he has responded quicker. And we're going to have to see where that puts him compared to Gayton, as Gayton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And here comes Brake out of the pit lane. And it looks like Gayton has actually built a decent gap, as URL Chris is going to undercut Brake, who comes out of the pit lane just there. So URL Chris is now ahead of Brake and is going to be in P2 in this race once Janko and the rest of the cars ahead box. So it looks like that has worked out for URL Chris, as his tyres are only 1 lap older than Brake's tyres. So he's not going to have a massive advantage on URL Chris. So it looks like Chris is in a good position, but Janko is most likely going to box this lap, which means he'll have 2 lap fresher tyres than Gayton and URL Chris ahead. But we'll have to see if he actually does box this lap. So we're going to ride on board with him now to see if he comes into the pit lane, and the answer is yes. So on lap 14 he decides to box. And where do you think this is going to put him? What position do you think this is going to put him in?
I think it's really close with the Caden Pollet, as there is like 20-second gap to Caden Pollet at the moment. So it's really close on the exit for sure.
Yeah, he's going to have to push nice and hard once he comes out of the pit lane. But coming out of the pit lane now, where is this going to put him? It looks like Gayton is going to overtake him. Is URL Chris and Brake though? It looks like URL Chris tries to go around the outside. Is he going to make the move stick? Yes, he is. No, he's not, because Janko is going to have a look down the inside into turn 3. Is he going to go around the outside turn 4? No, he thinks better of it. He's actually going to go for the switchback. Uses the ERS and the DRS into turn 5. It looks like he's going to make the move stick. So Janko has lost 1 position with his overcut, and that is absolutely amazing to see. But as you can see, as I predicted, the gap is 3 seconds to Gayton ahead. So there you go. Janko has 2 lap fresher tyres and only a 3-second gap to make up. So this has really worked out in Janko's favour. The undercut really working for him. So he's going to have to push nice and hard over these next few laps to catch up to that 3-second gap ahead. As it looks like one man who's still on those soft compound tyres, Spooter Elephant, actually comes into the pit lane now, as he had to lead the race for 1 lap. But is going to come into the pit lane now for medium compound tyres, and he might be one to watch, as his tyres are going to be very fresh compared to the rest of the grid. But as you can see, Janko is actually starting to pull away from URL Chris already, so he's got the pace straight out of the pit lane, doesn't even need to warm up the tyres. And let's see if he can catch up that gap to Gayton ahead. But as you can see, the 2 McLarens are actually 1-2 right now, and on the medium compound of tyres. But Gayton is just 13 seconds behind Brady, so Brady is not going to be anywhere close to this lead battle, but he's definitely going to have a big advantage in the midfield battle where he was fighting before for P8, if I'm not mistaken. So those 2 McLarens are definitely going to be one to watch. But Janko has actually only gained 1/10 this lap, and coming into the 3rd sector he's only gained 1/10. So Gayton and Janko have had very similar pace this entire race, and clearly 2 to watch for the race win, and the only 2 to compete for the race win. And as you can see, URL Chris is on the teetering edge of DRS. Is he going to get it for this home straight? And you can see the gap is 1 second, now it's 9/10. He has to get a good exit here if he wants the DRS, and it does not look like he's got the best exit, and the gap is now over 1 second. So Janko, in the matter of just 2 laps, has broken the DRS. It actually looks like one of the Ferraris has spun there. It's Mushalot who has spun there, and on those hard compound tyres, that is really not going to help him out, as H. Taylor overtakes him in this race. So
I was watching on the qualifying. Mushalot was struggling with the grip throughout the qualifying, especially on the sector 3, and now he was struggling on also in the race. So yeah, difficult race and qualifying for Mushalot.
Yeah, that's really going to hurt Mushlat's race. Apparently struggling very hard in the qualifying in the third sector, and he's actually struggling with track limits too, because as you can see, he has a 3-second time penalty. So Mushalat really struggling in the third sector, and it shows because he spun there and lost a lot of time and track position. But as we move back to the battle for the net lead of the race, Janko has now gained by 5/10, and the gap is 2.3 seconds. So Janko really showing his pace here in the mid part of the race, and he is catching Gayton by a lot. So Gayton's going to be quite scared and has to push him. He has to push quite hard himself if he wants to keep Janko out of that DRS. But Break is still battling away for P5 with URL Chris, and actually looks like he's going to go down the inside into turn 1, and he makes the move stick. So Break is now up into P5, but there's the next DRS zone to worry about. Is URL Chris going to overtake him into turn 5 with the power of the DRS? We'll have to see as URL Chris now opens the DRS. It looks like it's a little far back, 5/10 back to be exact, and he's not going to be close enough to make a move into turn 5. So Break is going to he's going to overtake URL Chris for P5 in this race. But remember, the top two still have not boxed, and they're going to be getting to their pit window quite soon. It's going to be this lap, and if not this lap, it's going to be next lap. But since they're both on the same team, they're going to have to box on opposite laps. So maybe if Brady doesn't box this lap, Kins is going to have to box this lap. So we'll have to see how that develops. But Janko has now put the gap down to 1.7 seconds. So he's gained by another 4/10 this lap. And he's really pushing hard. And it shows because he is catching Gayton ahead by a lot per lap. And he's going to be in the DRS next lap. Or the lap after that if he keeps going at this rate. So we'll have to see how that develops. But in this race, as you can see, Gayton has Janko has 3 lap fresher tyres than Gayton ahead. And do you think that's really going to help him out? Do you think that's going to give him a massive advantage once he actually catches up to the DRS of Gayton ahead?
Yeah, I think, and especially in the end, Katie Pollitt is going to struggle with tyres with a bit more than Sonko Slayer. So that means Sonko Slayer will have a little bit better advantage on the overtaking side on the coming to the end of the race. And if he can make the overtake, Kaiten Pollitt will not maybe catch him up back. So yeah, there's a little bit chance to Sonko Slayer to catch up him and make the move a little bit easier than Kaiten Pollitt would do.
Yeah, as you said, Janko is going to have fresher tyres, which is definitely going to make it a lot easier to overtake in the final few laps of the Grand Prix. But coming on to lap 21, Janko has not actually changed the gap. It's still 1.7 seconds, as it looks like Kingsman ahead in that McLaren on those medium tyres is now going to box on lap 19 for a fresh set of soft compound tyres. So we're going to watch where this puts him out on the grid. As it looks like he's going to be put out a little bit behind Lars, who has been struggling quite badly this race. And we'll have to see if Kingsman can catch up to Lars ahead. But I think Brady is going to be in a much better position than that, because Brady was about 8 seconds ahead of Kingsman, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to come out somewhere around where Lars is instead of behind H. Taylor. But once again, we're coming towards the end of the lap as Janko is about to enter the third sector. The gap is still 1.7 seconds, so Janko could possibly be charging up the ERS to maybe go for a late race charge to try and get into that DRS of Gayton ahead. As he can see him, he's right at him, and the gap is just 1.6 seconds, but it's not close enough for the DRS. So he's going to be pushing away, as it actually looks like he's gained about 3/10 in the last sector. So it looks like he's really fast in the last sectors. There's actually a yellow flag. It looks like Charles has spun for the second time this race, if I'm not mistaken. That actually causes a virtual safety car. And a virtual safety car is actually going to help out Gayton, because it's going to let him slow down, which is going to give him less tyre wear in this race. But if Gayton doesn't get a good restart off of this virtual safety car, he could accidentally give DRS to Janko behind. As you can see, he slowed down a lot, and this could be a strategy for getting the best restart off of the virtual safety car. He's allowed Janko and Brake and URL Chris to all catch up to him, and is going to be looking for a strong restart to maintain that 1.5 second gap as it was before the virtual safety car. But if Janko can get a really good restart here, he could be looking at DRS straight after this virtual safety car. We'll have to see as Charles pulls into the pit lane and retires from the race. So that is a shame to see. Spinning twice, he obviously thinks his race is over and has decided to retire from the session. But moving back to the front of the grid, these guys are really going to be looking for a good restart as we're gone away, and it looks like Gayton has actually allowed Brake and URL Chris to get within the DRS of Janko behind. So this could be a strategy from Gayton to possibly get Brake and URL Chris to start battling Janko and make it more difficult for Janko to actually overtake Gayton. So he's allowed Janko to get the DRS, but now he has two cars that he's going to be feeling the pressure from, and Spooder Elephant, who is just 1/10 behind that DRS. So what do you think of that strategy? I've never actually seen someone do that before, where he's backed up the car behind him to let the guys behind the guys behind Janko, to get the DRS to possibly put some pressure on Janko.
Yeah, I think it was bad situation for Keita Pollitt, as I think he just missed the delta time a little bit bad. So that Sankoseo really came on time with the safety car, and I think he was really on the edge with the delta time, and that gave him really good edge now, and he's now right behind Keita Pollitt and probably gonna go for the move on a few laps time.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. He's probably going to be looking for a move quite soon, and as you said, Gayton might have messed up on that virtual safety car restart. Maybe it wasn't a strategy to actually back up Janko into the cars behind, but as you can see, this has actually pulled Spooder Elephant and Rez into this lead DRS train. So all the way from P1 to P6 is in this DRS train, and this has really helped him in this race. But it actually looks like Janko is going to be going down the inside into turn 1, and it looks like he's going to make the move stick. Is Gayton going to be looking for a move into turn 3? No. But is he going to be looking for a move into turn 5, more importantly, with the power of the DRS? Let's see if he can make the move into turn 5. It looks like he's not going to be close enough into turn 5, so he's going to stay in P2 for now. And Janko is now ahead and has 3 lap fresher tyres. So Janko is in a great position in this race, as H. Taylor sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix with a 1:17.6. So Janko now in the lead of the Grand Prix with 3 lap fresher tyres. And Gayton behind is really going to have to struggle his way through this race. And I don't know if he's going to be able to regain that position, as he's not going to have anywhere near as much grip as Janko ahead. But he is actually maintaining quite a decent gap. He's just 4/10 behind and sticking quite close to Janko, and could possibly look for a move into turn 1 with a gap like that. But we'll have to see what kind of exit he gets.
Yeah, I think that was pretty smart move from Keita Pollitt to back up and not going for the move on Sankoseo, so that he can keep up with Sankoseo and maybe go for the move on the last lap. As we can see, he doesn't want to go even the move.
Yeah, that definitely would be a good strategy, to wait towards the end of the race to charge up the ERS, as the tyre advantage at this stage of the race is going to be a lot heavier than it is going to be at the end of the race. So it looks like Gayton isn't actually trying to go for a move into turn 1 or into turn 5. So he's definitely trying to just stick behind Janko and stay with them, and charge up his ERS and wait for the next 9 laps and possibly go for a move on the very last lap. So we'll have to see how that plays out, because that could be very interesting. But it looks like the guys behind these guys aren't actually changing positions too much. It looks like they're all very settled into this race. But as you can see, URL Chris has the same amount of tyre wear as Gayton, because he did box on the same lap but Spooder Elephant has 7-lap-old tires. So Spooder Elephant's tire wear is 4 laps less than URL Chris ahead, so we could be looking for a move on URL Chris for P4 in this race. But as you can see, once again, Brake is on the teetering edge of Gaten and Yonko ahead, and is actually outside of a 1 second gap. He really needs to push hard if he wants to get back in that DRS for this next DRS straight. And if he lost the DRS from them, it's going to be very hard to maintain the last place on the podium in this race. But he's got within the DRS for this next DRS straight, and he's going to stay in P3 for now. But if he does lose that DRS, it's going to be very hard to defend from URL Chris, Spooder Elephant, and Res Liam behind, as Lars gets a 3-second time penalty. Once again, looking back at him, he's actually back in P8, so definitely not the best of days for him. But Brady is actually 3 seconds behind. Last time I checked, when he came out of the pit lane, he was about 4.2 seconds behind, so he is actually gaining on this DRS train ahead with the power of the DRS, and could be looking to get into the battle for P6 and the last place on the podium as well. As that's how far up this DRS train goes. So Brake is once again within the DRS of Gaten, just about. He's 9 tenths behind, but he's going to stay within that DRS, as URL Chris is actually 8 tenths behind, so he might be struggling to keep up with Brake, who's struggling to keep up with Gaten. As you can see, Gaten could have gone for the move there. He was just 2 tenths behind, but is definitely waiting for a later stage in the race to go for this overtake. So what are your thoughts on Yonko having the fresher tires? Do you think that Gaten might be waiting for a later move because the tires won't make as much of a difference, because they'll both be very worn towards the end of the race? Do you think that could be definitely a good strategy from him?
Yeah, for sure. As you can see, there is a 3 laps difference between the tire wear, and yeah, because he has a lot older tires, it's smart to be on the back of Sonko Slayer, because otherwise, if he has in the lead, then maybe Brake and Chris and Spoon Elephant would catch them, and yeah, and that would probably cause some problems for both of Sonko Slayer and Gaten Bullet. So it's wise to be Sonko Slayer on the lead, so he can maintain his pace, and Gaten Bullet just keep up with the DRS on him. But yeah, it's really close, and I think it's really close on the last lap also with the overtake.
Yeah, I definitely think the last few laps are going to be very interesting, but as you can see, Brake has actually lost the DRS, as Gaten has a little look down the inside there into turn 5, which is interesting to see. Maybe he's getting a little impatient and wants to be ahead at this stage of the race. But Brake behind has actually lost the DRS to Gaten ahead, so he is going to be under serious pressure from URL Chris. He's going to need to push nice and hard in this third sector if he wants to get back into that DRS, which it looks like he is pushing nice and hard to try and get into that DRS. But he really needs it, because if he doesn't, URL Chris is going to be gaining a lot of time each lap, because there are 2 DRS zones on this track, and that's about you gain about 4 tenths on each DRS zone. So if he's gaining 8 tenths a lap, he could be looking for an easy move, as URL Chris actually looks to be struggling to keep up with Brake. So I don't know if he's gotten the DRS there. It looks like he has gotten the DRS on Brake, but the question is, has Brake gotten DRS on the guys ahead? And the answer is no, so Brake has officially lost the DRS to the guys ahead, and is going to be under serious pressure from URL Chris behind. So let's see how much URL Chris catches him by on this second DRS straight coming into turn 5, as coming into this DRS straight, he puts it wide open. The gap is 7 tenths, and by the end of the straight, it's going to be 6 tenths. So he's actually only gained 1 tenth with that DRS. But as you can see, URL Chris and Brake have been pushing extremely hard to keep up with each other, as both of their red lights are flashing, because they're both under 10% ERS. So these guys don't have a lot of ERS left, and neither does Spooter Elephant. But Rez behind in P6, who's been maintaining his ERS. He's got about 60%. He's been maintaining it quite well, conserving it, and he could be doing the same thing as Gayton and waiting towards the end of the race to use all of his ERS and overtake everyone ahead of him. But if you look behind Rez, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, I was just saying that I got some information about Lars von Linden, that he hadn't set up, he forgot to put setup, so he's running with the default setup now, so that's why he was slow.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense. If you run with the default setup, you're going to be losing almost a second every lap. But we're now riding on board with Brady behind. He is 1.3 seconds behind this DRS train, and that medium soft strategy has really worked because these softs he's been able to push nice and hard, and as you can see, he's just 1/10 off of the DRS, so he could be getting it on the next DRS straight, and he's going to have to push nice and hard in the middle and the last sector of this lap. But URL Chris is now just 3/10 behind Brake in this second sector, and if he has a strong last sector, he could be looking for a move into turn 1. We'll have to see how that plays out, as in this third sector he's following him quite nicely as he gets a good exit out of that blind right-hander into this uphill left-hander. He's clearly gaining a lot of time. He's found his pace in this later stage of the race with just 4 laps to go, as we're about to enter lap 30, as let's see if URL Chris is going to go for a move into turn 1, as Gayton is still just sticking behind Yonko and waiting for a move in the later part of the race, as he gets quite close to Yonko. But Yonko's red light is flashing. Sorry for looking away from Chris there, who doesn't go for a move into turn 1. Yonko's red light is flashing, so Yonko has under 10% ERS, whereas Gayton has over 60% ERS, as it actually looks like there's a yellow flag. It looks like Rez has spun. I think he's made contact with Brady going into turn 3. He has spun, and that is going to take him out of contention with that DRS train up ahead. So that is sad to see, as it actually looks like Brake has also made a mistake or something, because he is now 3 seconds behind Gayton. So both of the Alfa Romeos not having a good lap 30, as Brake has lost 3 seconds, as another one of the Ferraris has gone off. It looks like it's Mouchelot who's spun off at turn 4, very difficult corner, so it's all going off in this later stage of the race. On lap 30, Mouchelot has spun, Rez has made contact with Brady and also spun on turn 3, and Brake has obviously made a mistake somewhere in his lap and is now 3 seconds off of Gayton ahead. So it looks like the 2 Alfa Romeos and the Ferrari of Mouchelot really struggling at this later stage of the race, but looks like Brady on these soft compound tires is doing quite nicely for himself, as he might be looking for a move on Spooter Elephant ahead, as it actually looks like he's too far back for a move. And we're going to ride on board with URL Chris here, as he is very close to the back of Brake ahead, and let's see if he can make a move coming into turn 5. Maybe not, he's a bit too far back, but Brady on the other hand is getting quite close to Spooter Elephant. He has to look around the outside, but is a little too far back for a move like that, as we're getting on to the very late stage of this race. It's lap 31, and Gayton is really going to want to get a move on in this stage of the race. He has a lot of ERS to play with, and he only has so many laps to overtake Yonko ahead of him. So he's really going to need to push starting next lap probably, as the top 2 drivers are rounding out the final few corners and are going to be coming onto the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. And we're going to have to see, Gayton has actually saved up 70% of his ERS, and he's got to be looking to push now in these last 2 laps. So let's see. He doesn't turn on the ERS for this straight, but let's see if he goes to a move. As you can see, the power of his DRS is very strong. Is he going to be going down the inside? No, he lifts going into turn 1, so he's still deciding against the move for now. He knows Yonko's red light is flashing, so he does not have a lot of ERS, but he also knows that he needs to get a move on. It's the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Once again, using none of his ERS, he is going to wait for a last lap move in this Portuguese Grand Prix. And the battle for the last spot on the podium is actually getting quite heated too, as Brady is trying to overtake Spooter Elf, and it actually looks like he might. He gets a great exit out of turn 5, and with the help of the ERS, it looks like he's going to make a move, so he's up into P5 now on this penultimate lap, and could be looking for a move on URL Chris ahead. But yeah, Brady has actually set himself up perfectly in this race by going from the mediums to the soft. Starting from P11, he's now up into P5 and looking like he has a chance at a podium in this race. So let's see what he can do, as Gayton and Yonko are going onto the first DRS straight of the last lap of the Grand Prix. It looks like Gayton is using his ERS now. He has the power of the DRS and the slipstream. He's going to go around the outside of Yonko into turn 1, and he makes the move stick before the first turn. But is Yonko going to be able to fight back coming into turn 5? We'll have to see. It looks like he's a bit far back from Gayton, as he brakes a bit late coming into turn 3 there, actually makes contact and almost loses control of the car. But Yonko has absolutely no ERS to play with, and it does not look like he's going to be able to make the move on Gayton ahead, as it looks like Brady into turn 5. He's going to go down the inside of URL Chris, and it looks like he makes the move stick, as URL Chris is actually around the outside. He's still trying to battle this, and he's going to go down the inside into turn 6, but it looks like Brady's grip on those soft compound tires is absolutely amazing. He's going to maintain P4. Is he going to get onto the podium from P11 all the way to the podium in this race? We'll have to see. And we're coming into the last sector now. Gayton and Yonko ahead. Gayton's red light is now flashing. Yonko has saved up any kind of ERS that he can. He now has 20% coming onto this last straight. Gayton has about 15%, and he does not get the greatest exit out of the last turn, and it looks like Gayton is going to be the winner of the Portuguese Grand Prix in Division 4. Gayton comes across the line with 21 lap old medium tires. He's going to win this Grand Prix, but is Brady going to be able to overtake Brake? No is the answer. He comes home all the way from P11 to P4 with that alternate strategy from the mediums to the soft. URL Chris takes home P5, Spooter Elephant P6, Rez in P7, Lars not having the best of days with a default setup, he comes home in P8. Kingsman, who was on the same strategy as Brady, sadly didn't make it work as well. He comes home in P9. Mushalop is going to take home the final points in this race, so long as Ben Energy doesn't overtake him, as it actually looks like he's going to go for a move, last lap move. Can he make it work? No, he can't, but Mushalot had penalties anyway, so Ben is actually going to take that last point in this race. But wow, that was an absolutely amazing race. Gayton won that. Do you think he played that to perfection? Because personally, I do.
Yeah, I think he did it perfectly, and it was actually his second win in row. So it was really good play for him today, and yeah, really good to see he was up on his game today and looking sharp and really smart with the overtakes, and yeah, really good race.
Yeah, I thought that was an absolutely amazing race and a great way, a great first race to commentate on, as Gayton stuck within the DRS of Yonkin ahead of him. He waited and waited until the very last lap, where he overtook him on the first DRS straight to take the lead of this Grand Prix, and Yonko had no DRS to play with and could not keep up. So Gayton is going to be today's winner in Division 4 in URL. Yonko is going to take home the second spot on that podium, and Brake gets that last spot on the podium, with Brady coming home in P4 after starting P11 on the grid. URL Chris takes on P5, Spooter Elephant moves up to P6, Rez P7, Lars not having the best today falls from P3 to P8, Kingsman is going to move up from P12 to P9. Ben Energy takes home the last point in this race. Mushalot, H. Taylor, Nagy, and Charles are the last finishers in this race. So I hope you did enjoy that race, guys. And we're here again Friday, 6 p.m. for URL Division 4. And I hope to see you all there next time. And goodbye.